And it says we are live. Hello, everyone. I am number one Marmaduke fan. Today I am joined by several guests, all of whom are involved in Halloween Harvest, a Mythiverse Halloween comic anthology, currently on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. It has been funded on Kickstarter, and they're hoping to also get it funded on Indiegogo. And links are in the description. So I'll just I'll introduce my guests one at a time, and you guys can say hi, tell people a little bit about you. First, we have Brett Mcgowan. How are you doing?
I'm glad to be back on the show. Everyone knows who I am. I'm the guy who wrote Changeling and Urban Fairy Tale, and I do community outreach and public relations for the Mythiverse writ large.
And you don't have a story in this one, but your character maybe will be
Yes.
appearing
No,
in
I
one of
did.
the stories.
Yes to both. Yeah, I did not contribute any content to the anthology. I was involved with promotion, purely, and that was by design. Matt, Dan, and I wanted Hallowed Harvest to be an opportunity for all our new creators to show off what they had. But yes, Maeve will be appearing in a short that was done by my colorist Ginger Foxy.
And it's kind of exciting now that this universe is expanding beyond like the core team from the original book for you guys, right?
Well, yes, that's that. Well, it's because that's exactly what we wanted. We did not want this to live and die with the three of us. We wanted this to be able to carry on beyond Matt, Dan, and myself. We did not want this to just be about the adventures of Adobe, Althea, and Maeve. If we wanted to be able to bring other people on, we wanted that other people to be able to pick up on, and there's kind of no more. Well, there's kind of no more to say beyond that. Like I said, we just but the only thing I could say that if there ever came a day where the three of us no longer could be involved with the Mythiverse for whatever reason, we would know that there were hands that we could leave it in, and things would be able to still carry on.
To let it grow beyond yourselves a little bit. Very nice. Next up,
Exactly.
yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
pretty sure Stan didn't want Marvel to live and die with him.
Exactly. Yeah. So next up, we have James. By the way, this is my first time meeting a lot of you. So that right there, you kind of like already had an opportunity to introduce me to some new writers and artists. So next up, we have James Stern, and you are writing the story Halloween Traditions, correct?
Yeah. So, hi, I'm James. I am the architect of Hallowed Harvest, the first fully original Mythverse anthology. It's really exciting to be working on the project. And yes, I am I wrote Halloween Traditions. Its production is wrapped up on that. I'm just waiting on everyone else to get their stuff in.
Fantastic. And then next up, we have Celine Leblanc, who you're writing the text story, the Blackfire Covenant, right?
Yes, I am.
And like, how did you get connected with everybody?
Oh boy, that was I think it kind of happened a couple of years ago. And it just was looking into just a bunch of the indie stuff kicking off, with everybody being a little disgruntled over the big two. But in terms of the Hallowed Harvest, once James had made the announcement, I had to jump on right away because I'm a huge horror and Halloween guy. It's my favorite holiday, so I had to give it a crack.
Fantastic. And the next up, we have artist and writer Neville Art, aka Peter, and you're working on Maze of Dolls. Is that right?
That's right. Maze of Dolls is more of a straight up horror story. Probably one of the darker ones. Me and Salem's are probably some of the darker ones out of everybody in the anthology.
And I guess tell us a little bit about your cartoon style, because that really stood out to me when I saw your work on the campaign. Have you been? Do you have like different cartoon influences that you draw from? How have you been developing it?
I kind of had a pretty eclectic group of influences. A big one is Jonan Vasquez. I think that one shows through quite a bit. I've also taken a lot of inspiration from the aesthetic on Wind Waker. the Legend of Zelda game from
Yeah.
2000s. Yeah, and there's a lot, and of course there's a bunch of manga that influences my art, and it's mostly like the cheesy, popcorny shonen stuff. So it's a very eclectic, bizarre group of influences that ended up in a horror story.
Very interesting. And next we have Dylan Fagan, who is the writer and artist of October 1987. Are you with us, Dylan?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Awesome. So it's kind of interesting that we have some artists, we have some like writer-artist combos, we have some behind-the-scenes people. Dylan, tell us a little bit about your style and what you've been working on.
My art style?
Yeah, you're kind of like your art style in general.
I would say typically I go for a more anime aesthetic, but this one I was trying to go for something a little more grounded in like the overall. If you actually look at the thing, the inspiration for the art style in this one was inspired by like the old Tomb of Dracula comics. I mean, obviously it's not going to be perfect. It kind of has my own kind of style to it, because it's kind of hard to pinpoint, but I was going for something a little more retro, like especially with like the colorings and everything. Were you wanting me to describe my story, or are we going to get to that?
I'd like maybe like before we get into the individual stories, I'd like to hear a little bit about the overall project. So James and Brett, I guess you guys could kind of tell us about this. I know that James is kind of the behind-the-scenes man on this project, and Brett, you were obviously involved in the original Mythoverse project. So what's the origin story? How'd you guys all get together and start creating stories within this universe?
Well, I don't know exactly how to answer that, because as far as Hallowed Harvest itself goes, like I said, this was James's baby. So the origin to that, he'll tell it better than I ever could.
James, you want to just tell us a little bit about like how you came to be working on this project?
Yeah. I guess I'll start with how I got involved with the Mythiverse in the first place. So back at the beginning of no, not at the beginning. Back in 2018. Jesus, it's been 2 years already. Okay, sorry. So I backed the Mythiverse. Wait, when did you guys launch the original crowdfunding? Was it early 2019 or was it late 2018?
It was. I know it was. I'm 99% sure it was May 2018.
Okay. So I backed the original crowdfunding for the Mythiverse because some guy I watched on YouTube recommended it. So I decided, I'm starting to get into comics. I'm curious. I'll check it out. So I backed it, ended up in the Discord, and was kind of active. I think I showed up more when people were just in the general chats and stuff. And I just kind of shot around comic ideas that I was just generally having, not really related to the Mythiverse, just my own stuff. And eventually I heard that the Mythiverse was accepting more talent into their pool. And so I modified one of the comic ideas I had, pitched it as a Mythiverse title, and Brett, Matt, and Dan all seemed to like it. And so I joined the creative team.
And then I'm guessing the Discord was like a way of recruiting more talent for the rest of the stories?
With regards to Hallowed Harvest?
Yeah, kind of like the additional stories. Like, did you like actively go seeking people, or did they tend to come to you?
It was kind of a. I think it was more they came to us. I think one of the first, if I remember correctly, one of the first people I think we brought on board was Dylan. Dylan and James were both in like the first, I guess you could say within the first initial group. Nebel and Salem came a little bit little bit later separately too.
Yeah, I was the one who invited Nebel. It was actually Matt that invited me. He got in contact with me through Instagram. This was just after I left Twitter too. So I came in like early 2019, and oh, Neostar, he's here. Hello.
Welcome, the brilliant star that shines through the night, the chill down the spine of evil. Riser Man stands before you. Welcome. Is he part of the Mythoverse?
Nah.
No, but he is a friend of the Mythoverse.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
So,
I
but
think
yeah,
generally. Go ahead, Brett.
I was gonna turn the floor over to you because I think you still had a little more to go.
Okay, yeah. So, just kind of generally for Brett, yeah, I think a lot of the talent beyond the main three was recruited through the Mythoverse Discord server. So that was the story of how I got involved with the Mythoverse in general. I just kind of happened to be in the right place at the right time, I guess, and had a good idea. So, with regards to Hallowed Harvest, I saw someone in the chat mention Maeve's mom, and I had to cringe for a moment.
Never forget. You guys won't let me.
Anyways,
It's the classic Cartoon Network tradition of thick cartoon moms.
I like my women the way I like my pizza cheese. Thick!
Extra thick!
all right. Anyways, I'm trying to get through. So it was it early or mid-August that I originally pitched the idea? I think it was like early August. It was 4:30 in the morning. I just finished watching 3 movies. The first of which was Hellraiser, and the last of which was Halloween 2. The original Halloween 2, not the Rob Zombie one. And so I was kind of in a spooky mood. I was like, you know what? I really like Halloween. I think the Mythoverse should do a Halloween thing. I'm going to pitch this. And so I threw the idea out there on the Discord in a really haphazard way because I was exhausted. I'd been up all night watching movies. And I wasn't really expecting it to go anywhere, but everyone seemed super thrilled about the idea. So I started recruiting people. I basically put out a message like, yo, I'm doing this thing, the Halloween anthology. The goal is to produce quality content that celebrates Halloween in some way. So if you've got an idea, throw it at me. And I think Nebel and Dylan were probably the first ones to get back to me for the project.
Speaking
it's like Halloween because
Go ahead.
you can't turn that down. Go ahead.
Nebel or Dylan, were you going to add anything?
Nah, I didn't think it was done yet.
Wait, is he done?
I heard Marmaduke start talking, so I stopped.
No, it's okay. I thought that I thought one of them was going to interject.
Spirit of Dead Air. Anyways, so yeah, I started recruiting people, and originally I just had plans for it to be like 5 short stories, have it be a Patreon thing where each story gets released on one weekend of the month because we've got 5 weekends this October, and so that way give people who follow the Mythoverse on Patreon a little something to enjoy during the quarantined Spooktober. But it grew, we got more people, and eventually between several of the creators who are on the project, myself and Dan, we decided it would be best to make this a crowd-funded full comic. And so we got to work.
Very nice. And for people who haven't backed the Mythoverse yet, like one nice thing about this is if you missed the original Mythoverse, there's an option to catch up on that as well as get a digital or print edition of this new anthology. So it's a great jumping on point. I'd kind of like to go through each of the stories and just get like you guys' commentary on them. Like what it went into inspiring them, like what's gone into your lives working on comics or working on art and stories before this project. So I'd like to start with Dylan, since it's the first story listed in the anthology. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. So we're looking at the art for October 1987. Dylan, I asked you kind of like briefly about your style before. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this story specifically? Like what inspires you? Where have you gotten some of your ideas for it?
So I'll start with the story. The story follows two paladins. I'm sure you can guess what day it happens on. And they are hunting down a vampire in an old London sewer system. While I tried to give like the story this sort of retro kind of feel to it, I actually kind of got the story idea from a Batman anime short from Batman Gotham Knight, where he was hunting down like Killer Croc and stuff. I got the idea for the story from that slightly. It's just there's just a whole bunch of inspirations, but this story will actually be a setup for a future character arc that will give a lot of background story to like the Paladins and the Adobe Kroger story. It'll fit in quite nicely.
Very nice. So maybe for people who are curious about writing for like another person's universe, how much research do you do? Do you like read the Adobe Kroger stories to get a feel for it? Do you have to like communicate with Dan in the background to kind of like get the vibe of these guys?
Yeah. Me and Dan have talked a lot about what the time periods, what I can do. This is very much this is pretty much set in Dan's corner of the Mythoverse. I'm very much tweaking around with the backstories of the Paladins, and this will bleed into much larger narratives without going into too many details. But these two characters, Thomas and Michael, will be very important characters. And this story initially sets up a huge plot thread that will have big consequences. It starts out small, but
Very cool. This is my first time seeing your work. Have you been publishing have you published comics before this?
I have worked on a number of short comics for the Mythoverse. I've been drawing like a long time, but I'm still I'm relatively new in the comic book industry. Actually, my first book actually came out recently, Dropping Out, written by Dan. It was a story about the darkest night of Adobe Kroger's life, and I did the art for that, and it had I was going for a very trippy visual style, and that is my first published book. And this Kickstarter, since it'll be physical too, this will be my second. Even if it's a small story part of an anthology, this is still technically my second book that I've been attached to. And for everyone else, this will, I assume, will be the first book they're attached to.
Very,
Or
very, very cool. So you've been drawing a long time. Like I noticed you have like a really strong emphasis on like light and shadow. I'm guessing that's something you like to include as a way of kind of highlighting drama for the characters.
oh yeah, I very much like to play around with colors to like uh, express like mood and tone. Mostly because I think it works because I'm terrible at keeping consistent colors, and it's kind of like OCD a little bit, you know. But I do it because I want to like, yeah, like sometimes the colors will change on a whim, but because it's like fits the mood, you know. It's something I feel like is very underutilized in comic books nowadays. Like, you know, have you seen like any sort of modern comic? You know, they use typical kind of colors that, you know, I mean, you have a whole bunch of colors you can use to set a tone in it. Most people go with gray or just regular skin tone colors, and I try to do something a little different.
I'm also kind of curious, how much are you guys sharing your work with each other behind the scenes? Like, do you comment on each other's work a lot as you're working on it, or is it a little bit more like private? You just go work on your own thing a little bit. What would you guys describe your approach as?
It is. I would say it's very community oriented. Like everyone is, we're always sharing our work with each other, always looking for feedback. And I think that's that's very conducive to a very supportive atmosphere here within the Mythoverse, and I think that's helped a lot of that's helped a lot of us grow as creators too. And it's kind of good to know when you got colleagues who are willing to sort of help point you in the right direction or help you out.
Very interesting. Dylan, do you have any additional thoughts to share on October 1987?
Nothing too much, but I will say the page you're scrolling past actually has been adjusted slightly, so the colors will be different in the final product. Oh, and by the way, I just like a couple hours ago I had finished the final page, so you know, now I get to work on other things I'm excited for.
Nice. I'm curious. I kind of see a little texture to the color. Are you like creating like halftone dots or doing something to give it that kind of like an older comic look?
Yeah, that's kind of, I do that with most of my drawings to try and give it some texture, but here it's a little more intentional to, and plus and I also add a bit of a small noise filter to kind of make it feel less, so it doesn't feel quite as empty, you know, like.
Yeah.
Like I like giving my art a little bit of texture. So it's kind of my way of kind of, it's, I don't know if it's cheating or not, but you know, I use the half tones, I use the noise filter just to make it look a little more complete.
And kind of like you what I like about your coloring is you have more of the like old school sensibility of you can do a lot with a few colors, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
you have a million colors, but it's confusing. But if you have just a few colors and you're composing it, well, it's sort of like it directs the eye. Like the bright yellow lights on their highlights really pops them forward, you know?
Yeah, and as they go further into the darkness and they will lose their flashlights, that's when I really take away like more the colors, and I usually stick in it. The pages will usually have only like one or two colors to really emphasize the kind of mood.
Hey, Marv, if you really want to be impressed by this, Dylan, did you go to art school at all?
No, I am self-taught. Everything I draw is on a tablet with my finger. I yeah, I've been drawing since I could pick up a pencil.
Very, very cool. I love self-taught work. So, okay, when you say your finger, like, how do you get, like, I almost never do digital art. Do you find it hard to like get like a variety of line widths drawing with your finger, or can it like sense the pressure that you apply?
It's very, very easy for me to use my finger for my tablet. Oh, my dog. It's just something I've gotten used to, and I feel like it's a bit more personal when I'm using my finger to draw, because that's about like the only time my hands are really steady is when I'm drawing. And yeah, it's just I just love doing what I do, and I don't really have much else to say.
No, that's very, very cool. I wanted to point out to our audience, by the way, that Aurora Valentine has joined us. Hi, Aurora. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. So we gave everyone a chance to introduce themselves a little bit and just kind of like, I don't know, just like tell the story of like, how'd you end up with this group? How'd you meet them?
Actually, I joined up to the group by meeting Dylan in another group.
Hello.
And I just gave off ideas that I've had for writing, and he seemed to really enjoy them, and I was introduced to the group, and it just kind of all went uphill from there.
Very neat.
Yeah, you're the second person I brought here, because the first time I saw Neville's artwork, I'm like, bring him on, bring him on, bring him on. And so they brought him on. So, yeah.
Very, very cool. So I want to, we're going to keep scrolling. Basically, we're going to keep scrolling through each of the stories, just kind of like get everybody a chance to like comment on each story in the anthology. And then I thought we'd just have like a free chat after that. So the next one is Neville's work, Maze of Dolls. Are you with us, Neville?
Yo.
All right. So hold on. I want to make sure that people can see who's talking. There we go. All right. So Neville, tell us about Maze of Dolls, maybe one of the more scary and mature stories in the anthology, right?
Oh, I don't know about mature, but it's pretty scary. No, the Maze of Dolls it's a short story about a young lady that finds out about a Halloween maze that there isn't any information online about. So she decides to sneak a peek early and gets a lot more than she bargained for. It turns out things in that maze are a lot more real than she'd like them to be.
And I think I saw in the description that there's some inspiration from this from real life.
Oh yeah. Yes, there is.
Good grief. How do you find about that?
So I'm the kind of person that actually does tend to like bop around looking for just weird stuff. And one thing I remember finding a little while ago are stories about people who've mistaken corpses for Halloween decorations. This is something that happens. It doesn't happen like all the time, but it happens distressingly often. Like one really famous case involved an older gentleman who had a stroke and died on the sidewalk, and the person who found him there was their mail carrier. There's also numerous other variations of these kinds of stories where you would find like bodies hanging from trees, and you find out later that those were actually suicide victims. So there's a lot of these kinds of stories where you unknowingly happen upon a dead body on Halloween. Apparently, this is how Skeletor was created for He-Man. That the guy who originally drew the character went into one of those Halloween mazes and found this prop that looked like a rotting corpse, and it was really convincing, and it traumatized the hell out of this guy, and it turned out later that was a real body.
Oi.
At least
the dark history behind He-Man.
Oh, yeah. So the legends say, of course.
And tell us a little bit about like your history in comics. So you've kind of developed this cartoon style. Will this be your first published comic?
Technically, this is actually my second one. I've done work on an anthology with the Draw and Talk folks a couple months ago for their 2020 challenge. That was a very different story. I actually worked with Pointman Comics, if you're familiar with him. We collaborated to make a 2-page story, which was about like a cat girl trying to escape this like fantasy gladiatorial arena. So I kind of hop between genres a bit to keep things interesting.
Very, very cool. And have you contributed anything to the Mythoverse beyond this story?
I've contributed a few things. One thing that I did a long time ago, I actually made a Christmas card for the Mythoverse crew before. And the main character there for Maze of Dolls, we can call her Brittany for now. She was actually a character I wrote for a story for an ongoing Mythoverse story, and I figured this might actually be a good debut for this character.
Very, very cool. I like that. So you've been working on things behind the scenes, and this anthology is kind of giving you a chance to put it out into the public a bit more.
Right. And it's also a good chance to kind of introduce people to this character. So it's like, it's not completely out of nowhere, and you have something to build on.
And is there anything else you can tell us about either the story or the art for Maze of Dolls that you'd like people to know?
Ooh, that I'd like people to know. That's a tough one.
I mean, you could spoil all of the secrets and surprises and jump scares from the channel if you want.
I don't want to spoil everything, but I want to say that one thing that you can expect from the Maze of Dolls story is I'm fairly certain when I revealed the rough sketches for most of the people in the server, I think I traumatized half of the creative team. So look forward to that.
I am noticing you like your like spooky. What's it reminding me of? It's reminding me of when my roommates used to play BioShock. Right, like there was the guy who would make art out of dead people. That's what I'm getting. That's the vibe I'm getting.
Oh yeah, that's always pretty cool to me. And it's
Sandra Cohen. That's the guy you're thinking of.
And it's kind of a leap from a lot of this. Like I said, I leap from genre to genre. I think actually you liked a post I made of a different project I do where I drew like the U.S. presidents as anime girls.
Yeah, that's the one I noticed.
So I just do a bunch of different things to keep it interesting. But once I zero in on them, I like go whole hog. Right now, horror is my thing.
Very cool. Now, the next story is by Forrester, and we don't have him with us. So I'm just wondering if any of you guys like Anarchy, Chaos, if any of you guys want to jump in and comment on it. Forrester is the writer and artist for Port of Call, which kind of has like an old school like pulp era of comics look to it. Do any of you have anything you want to share from behind the scenes that
yeah, I'll go ahead and describe what I can. So it's about this pilot dude. He stumbles upon this bar, and it turns out to be a bar full of ghosts. Hijinks ensue. Yeah, that's about all I can really say about it. But it's really cool. And if you actually see the final version of this page right here, it's like, oh my god, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
I have a little more to say because I'm actually working with Forrester on my mainline entry for the Mythoverse. So as Dylan already kind of gave the plot synopsis, it's meant to play a lot into kind of the maritime mythology surrounding Norfolk, Virginia, because Forrester has a big interest in naval history, and he lives in the area. So he kind of wanted to tell an old ghost story. What's it called? Is there a specific name for like ghost
Like
stories from the sea?
Like a maritime ghost story.
Yeah, maritime ghost story. Thank you, Neville.
There's also a couple of other deep cuts in this that are actually pretty neat. Like he manages to incorporate a lot of local ghost stories from this area into the comic. One thing I'll give you a hint to pay attention for: look out for crabs.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And that's one thing we
I
can
will
say about the Mythoverse. We got crabs.
Oh no. But yeah, I wanted to specifically comment on his style though. So yeah, he definitely has a very golden age pulpy style, which is actually one of the reasons I wanted to work with him, because I wanted my story to be a black and white kind of pulpy looking thing. And he captures it really, really well. He does a fantastic job with angles, mood. Like he's a very talented artist.
Very, very neat. Okay, I'm curious. When you talk to people about the Mythoverse, like how do you pitch them on it? Do you say like you can write for the Mythoverse as long as like, I don't know, like certain real world events happen? Like, is there do you have to like give them like a nerdy explanation of the history of the Mythoverse, or do you just find that people kind of like they kind of come in basically pretty knowledgeable of what they need to know to make things fit?
Do you guys mind if I take this?
Sure.
I'm pretty sure it's addressed to you, Brett. So take it, man.
All right. Okay. So to answer your question, when we take people on, we do sort of what we kind of ask is that the continuity of all the existing titles is acknowledged and respected. We make an effort to get everyone up to speed, and we also have a list of general rules for the Mythoverse as a whole that we ask everyone to follow, just to help maintain consistency through all the titles. Okay, and we do forth in some documents. Matt is currently working on a more definitive writer's guide that will start handing out as we start taking on more and more creators. But like I said, as long as people are able to follow the rules we set in place, there's really no problem.
Very neat. Now, I guess the next story involves the character you created. So it's written and drawn by Ginger Foxy, who colored for Changeling, an urban fairy tale, and it features your character. So were you working closely with Ginger while she worked on this?
Yeah. I just let her do whatever she wanted, and with Ginger, she really doesn't need a lot of direction from me. She's been attached to the project for so long, like she pretty much gets Maeve. Like, let me put it this way: if circumstances forced me to step away from the book, I could just basically hand it off to her, and nothing would change.
I can kind of see just in like her art that Maeve has this very like cute but kind of sullen vibe to her, and she's definitely picking that up. And I don't know if I've told you this, but Maeve's my favorite character so far, so I am really interested to see like more of her in this universe.
Yeah. Like I said, I think people are going to enjoy this story. Ginger did a really great job, and it just, even though Ginger put her own touch on it, it still feels like Maeve.
Very nice. But I guess maybe kind of like tying into this, will we be able to expect guest appearances of, I guess, like the main three protagonists we've met so far in other stories, either in this anthology or maybe down the road? Will we see some more cameos?
Not off the table. I can say that much.
Okay, you may have to wait and see what people are writing, I'm guessing, before you can make those decisions.
Yeah, I think I don't Within the Mythiverse, we're trying to fall into the trap of over interconnecting things. We want to make sure that there's a consistent set of rules within the universe, but we don't want to do what Marvel and DC did, where every character and every story intersects at 8 bazillion places, and it just isn't fun to engage with because you have so much catch up to do for anything to make sense.
And look at it this way.
And Brett, you can correct me if I'm wrong at any point.
More like a
so
setting
it's-
more like a setting for stories to take place rather than like a dense, complex Game of
Yes,
Thrones
yes,
world.
yes, exactly. Think less Marvel and how Marvel and DC operate, and think more like a tabletop setting.
Yeah, so there are potentials for cameos and interweaving. I plan on having the ghost from Adobe Kroger Knight Errant Crow appear in the first issue of my comic. So it's not entirely off the table. We just can't let it be forced. We're trying to make sure that when things happen, it happens organically. It has strong story reasons for happening that way, and it makes sense. We don't want to just say crossover event.
Gotcha. And
That's something that is that's a direction Marvel zig that we are making in contraceptive to zag, because let me put it this way. It's easier at this point to list off the number of characters Spider-Man hasn't crossed over with.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's the one thing that really annoys me about just the big two. Everyone freaking knows each other. And realistically, I don't think Spider-Man would ever know who what Star-Lord is, or
the Guardians of the Galaxy used to operate in their own space, and now everyone knows who they are in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, when they should literally just be.
Now back.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say to get back on track. There's James's story.
yeah, so we're going to see a cameo of Crow. For people who don't know, Crow appears in the novel Adobe Kroger Knight Errant. I've been working my way through it on Audible, and I'm enjoying it so far. And this kind of has a bit more of like a childlike or child-friendly.
Crow is not going to be appearing in this short.
Not in this short. Okay, I got.
When I said my first comic, I meant like the first issue of the mainline story I'm going to be working on.
Gotcha. So tell us a bit more about Halloween traditions.
Sorry about the false hopes.
It's all right.
But yeah, Halloween tradition. So this is my entry to Hallowed Harvest. I'll start with the inspiration behind it before I go into what it actually is, because it kind of ties into why I wanted to do this project in the first place. So Halloween has always been a really nostalgic holiday for me. Hang on one moment. Dylan, I think your mic is picking up a lot of background noise.
I'm muted.
Oh. I'm getting a lot of background noise from someone. I'm
Where's
sorry.
the breathing coming from then?
Mike Myers is right behind all of us.
Well, shit.
I don't know.
Hey!
I can't see anyone.
Groovy, baby!
Hey, spoiler.
He said Mike Myers.
Wrong one. Anyway.
Anyways, back to the story. I got us completely derailed. So Halloween has always been a super nostalgic holiday for me. I love the macabre and creepy and weird. Like one of the things I watch most on YouTube is actually just Halloween short films or horror short films, because I just enjoy the weird and the macabre. And on top of that, I also remember fondly Halloween as a kid. During the month of October, you don't have all those Halloween specials playing, like Fairly Odd Parents, SpongeBob are the two that come immediately to my mind. I'm sure there were a lot of others as well. And so I kind of wanted to capture that warmth and that naivety and that wholesomeness that you see in Halloween as a kid. I wanted to capture that time when you weren't concerned that strangers had bad intentions, when you could just be without worry. And to be clear, I'm not encouraging dumb decisions in this story. I just wanted to capture that naivety. And so what the story is about, the reason it's called Halloween Traditions is that there's a fictional county in the Mythiverse called Mcgowan. And it's known for there being some weird stuff happening there. And one of those weird things is it's rumored that during the witching hour on All Hallows Eve, the ghosts of the people who are buried in the cemetery rise to interface with the living. And so it's the yearly tradition of all the kids to go up and try and stay there long enough to prove they're brave girls and boys and to try and talk to the ghosts. And this year, someone actually made it to the witching hour, a little girl, and she discovers that the supernatural have their own traditions as well.
Interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about the artist you're working with on this one, Jacob? So did you pick the style and the artist based on kind of like the vibe you were going for the story?
So when it came to hiring Jacob, honestly, I just enjoyed his work. I think I put out a request to see, like, is anyone here interested in working on this project? And he was one of the people who responded. And I didn't pick him so much for his style. I picked him more for his technical skill. He's a very skilled artist. He actually won the first and only art contest we did for the Mythiverse way back last year in 2019. Feels so long ago. So I picked him for his technical skill. More so than his style, and I just kind of gave him directions like, I want this to be more wholesome. I want a good balance of warm and cool colors, not just overwhelmingly warm or overwhelmingly cool. And I just kind of gave him the directions and said, let's get to it. And it turned out really well. So this stuff is work in progress. As you can see, a lot of that second page is just flat coloring. It doesn't have the full coloration. So I think I mentioned this earlier. This story has been completed. Jacob's gotten all the pages to me, and it looks wonderful. Dan said he enjoyed it and that it was adorable. So I'm really excited to share it with everyone.
Very, very cool. I'm always interested in like the process of how like it goes from one step to the next, the finished product. The next one is the Blackfire Covenant, and this is a illustrated short story. So, Salem, this one is yours. So I'm just kind of curious. Like I know there's like a long tradition of short stories in comics and comic anthologies, so I'm kind of excited to see that we're going to be getting one from indie comic creators. Why a short story? Tell us a little about it.
Well, it's actually I'm actually from more of a writing background, so there is that. But also, it just had to do with the fact that I was having I am in a bit of a difficult financial situation, so hiring an artist was going to be a little harder for me. However, it kind of worked as a benefit for me because I am more, like I said, I've got, I went to college to study writing and stuff, so I'm a little more familiar with writing more so short stories or narrations or things like that, rather than just comic scripts. So it's kind of like it was originally going to be a comic, but it ended up working to my strength in a way because I'm more familiar with writing in this kind of way.
I mean, it's kind of also like you've accidentally like continued like this long tradition where I believe that comic companies used to hire short story writers because it allowed them to classify their comics as children's literature, and it basically got like made it easier for them to market them. So I'm excited because to me, like having an anthology, like a short story is kind of like a part of like the good old classic, spooky comic giant collections of yesteryear. Was this based on something you were working on before Mythiverse?
Yes, it is. It was actually a short story that I was working on before, but when I heard about the Hallowed Harvest thing coming up, I thought, this could actually fit in pretty well with it. So I just tweaked it a little bit here and there, and I had to shorten it up a little bit because the original short story was going to be about almost 50 some pages. So obviously had to cut it down quite a bit, but that's okay because what this is also going to do is there is going to be more after this regarding this story and the ideas that are going to be put forward in the story.
Can you tell us a little bit about the illustrator, Omenomicon?
Yeah, she is one of the first people that actually befriended when I got onto doing my writing and having an online persona and appearance. I kind of love her style with the she calls herself an anime expressionist, and you can definitely see that in like her she calls them her venting pieces, and she has an amazing way to pull off colors and emotion, and even when she does it like just in black and white, she's able to make I know this is going to sound weird, but it's like she can make black and white almost seem colorful because the way that she will like make the lines and stuff on her pieces will make the white and black pop. Like instead of like just using thin lines, like she'll use like really thick lines. So let's say that you're looking at a character who's drawn, and they have like snow white skin. The white pops out more than usual because like the line work that she will do will be a lot thicker than what you're typically used to.
Very neat. And by the way, I wanted to call attention.
She is also sorry, my bad.
I was just going to call attention that Forrester has joined us. So I just wanted to give you a chance to say hi to everybody. Can you hear us okay, Forrester? Oh, that's all right. Sam, I'll let you continue. Tell us a little bit more about. Go ahead and continue the thought you had about your story.
Oh, I was just saying she's also very much into horror and the macabre and tragedies, much like I am. So yeah, we get along very, very well, and I like to work with her whenever I can. And so she was able to do an illustration for the piece, and I'm really happy that we were able to put something together again.
Very nice. I really like how these compilations are just a chance to, meet a bunch of new people or, find a bunch of new talent. So I'm glad you were able to find an artist who fit with what you were working on. So do you think that your additional stories, are they going to be published through the Mythoverse, or will they be published kind of like as your own independent project?
I got a bunch of stuff going on. That's actually part of the reason why I'm so slow releasing my stuff, is because I take on way too much than I can get done at once. But I do tend to operate a lot better when I have like a deadline, which is why I think that I've done a good job with keeping up to task with this story. Like, it's already done. It's just I'm just doing little edits on it. I'm showing it to a few people, just getting some last minute feedback before I submit it. But that's that's the thing, because especially with COVID, I think a lot of people can relate to this. When a lot of areas in your life are uncertain, you're a little hard to it's a little less. It's less easy to like jump into something, even if it's creative and something that you're passionate about. But with all the stuff that I am working on, there is some other stuff that I am working with other people on. There's a few other things that I'm working on with the Mythoverse. Some of them more technical than story driven, and then there's also my own personal stuff that I'm trying to get out there. So yeah, at the bare minimum, if if I'm gone for an extended amount of time on social media, it's most likely because I'm working on something. It might be it's there's 10,000 things I've got on my table, but you can rest assured at least one of those things is being worked on when I'm not around.
Very, very cool. Aurora, I haven't met you before. I'm guessing you're an artist?
Actually, I'm a writer.
Neat. So tell us a little bit about what you're contributing to the Mythiverse.
Okay, so far I have one story planned that is pretty much loosely based off of a fairy tale, and I kind of like playing around with reimaginings of things. So I kind of work around with that. So that's kind of what's going on in my addition to Hallowed Harvest. It's
And what's the title of the story you're contributing to?
the title of the story that I'm contributing to it is Piper Chapter 0, Life's Final Riddle. Pardon me, I got tongue-tied. Life's Final Riddle. It's essentially about a girl who somehow wanders into that meeting between the afterlife and to the world of the living. Basically, on Halloween night, she somehow manages to slip through the thin layer of reality and ends up in this pathway that breaks off into two different sections, and she's kind of left with a very, very hard choice there.
Very cool. So I'm curious, have you written for comics before? And how did you get hooked up with the Mythiverse team?
Written comics before, but I have, dabbled a little bit in both poetry and with writing in itself. I have little bits and pieces kind of here and there published randomly.
Very neat. I think we lost Forrester. So I just wanted to give you guys kind of like a chance. I don't know, like tell us a little bit about how you've worked together, any fun stories behind the scenes we should know. I just kind of want to like turn the floor over to you guys to share anything you'd like to share with the listeners.
I suppose since you're going to give us the floor, I just realized that I actually didn't talk anything about what my entry was about.
I'm very sorry. Yeah, you should. You should.
No, that was totally on me. I just rant and rave about things and I lose track of everything. But basically, my story is just a friend is looking for another friend who's lost in the woods after he had found out that his friend had joined a cult. And this takes place in Western Ireland, which is a very heavily forested area. And so it'll be a creepypasta meets. I tried to throw in a little bit of poeisms and Hawthorneisms in there for like the descriptions, and it's going to be more focused on like the origin, like the cultural origins of Halloween and such. So you'll be seeing like a lot of fall foliage. You'll be seeing a lot of pagan imagery and things like that.
Adding in some like subtext things to add to the creep factor. I like the Poe and Hawthorne references. Those are some pretty neat inspiration sources.
Yep, Poe is my all-time favorite, and Hawthorne is somebody that's, especially given things are going on in the world right now, given some of his works, I think that he's becoming more and more relevant as more and more time passes on. So I'm always pulling from not necessarily their ideas, but I love the language they use.
Very, very neat. I mean, and appropriate too, since you're contributing a text story that you're looking to like I think a lot of like comics people, they become like exclusively focused on comics history. And I always feel like the more inspiration sources you have, the more you have to mix in. And especially for horror, having some like the classic horror writers in your repertoire is a really good idea. Very, very cool. So I just wanted to clarify one thing just to make sure that the listeners understood. So it's been funded on Kickstarter. You are trying to get it funded on Indiegogo, but because it's funded on Kickstarter, that means if people choose to back it on Indiegogo, they will get their books. Is that right?
Yes.
You are gonna
So
get your
Regardless. Yep. Sorry. That was my bad.
So we deliberately set up funding, or we were very deliberate in how we set up funding. So to get everything paid for, we need about $4,000, and we knew that was going to be a challenge. Possible, but not super likely. So the way we set it up is set 3/4 of the goal on Indiegogo, make it a flexible goal so that we can get whatever funds go there, we'll have. And then because Kickstarter is fixed, we made that the smaller goal, set it at 1,000, because we knew that was going to be very doable. So as it stands now, no matter which side you back, you will be getting funding, and you will be making it easier for this project to get paid for.
Excellent. So people, basically, someone shouldn't think, oh no, I can't back it on Indiegogo because that might not reach the number. If they like Indiegogo, use Indiegogo, and
Correct.
you'd actually prefer them to use Indiegogo, right, to help so that both of them can meet their mark.
Yeah, because I think if it gets funded on Indiegogo, it might mess with some algorithms that'll make it easier for us in the future. If assuming we do this again next year, we'll probably be using the same accounts for both platforms. So it'll help us to get it funded. And it looks better overall if we can say, hey, we got stuff funded all over the place. But yeah, at this point, if you fund, you will get the product. I guess now would be a good time to talk about our deadlines, unless I already touched on that and completely forgot. Did I talk about deadlines yet?
I don't think you did.
Okay. So one of the main goals with this project was everything, the consumer will have their product by Halloween. That was the goal. Because originally when I conceived of the idea, it was going to be Patreon, like I mentioned earlier. Every weekend, people get a new story. And when it evolved into this, I set the deadline of October 14th. Everyone needs their stuff in. That gives myself and Dan a full week, because we started the campaign on the 21st of September. So it ends the 21st of October. So having everything due the 14th gives myself and Dan a full week to read through, edit, give feedback, and then compile the stories into digital format for distribution. And like I said earlier, you back this, you're getting a product. It's getting done. At this point, the funding is just to make sure that I can get people paid in a timely manner.
Very cool.
And one thing I want to, sorry, Mark, but yeah, this is something that I want to get out in the air. This is a policy we set for all Mythoverse crowdfunders, regardless of which platform you pledged on, regardless of which tier you backed at. No matter, you will get a digital copy once the product is ready to go to market, essentially, because that was something we started over with our first crowdfunder because it took a little while to get all 3 books done. Then we want longer than we wanted to get all 3 books done, and we had a lot of printing delays. So we just decided that putting out the digitals would be a way to help smooth things over and give people something to hold them over while they waited. So, like I said, backed on Indiegogo, backed on Kickstarter, and no matter which tier you chose, you will get a digital copy of this email to you.
Day of, I want to mention, you will be getting, like, as soon after the campaign closes as we are physically able, we will make sure the digitals get sent out.
I like that. Speedy delivery. maybe related to that, have you guys, what have you guys learned maybe about making comics from this project? Maybe kind of like share with people who want to make comics and they don't know, like, how do I get started? How do I do the business stuff? Tell us what you've learned basically, like putting together this anthology.
If it's specifically this anthology, I guess I'd be a great person to ask, because honestly, before I joined the Mythiverse, I wasn't super into comics. I had read a handful of graphic novels, but I didn't really know too much about writing them. And I definitely knew nothing about the business side of it. So coming into this project, some things I learned that I would pass off as advice is the first step is just deciding to do it. If you have something you're passionate about, work on it. And if people, you will, if there's a market, you will find it. That's probably a little bit of Dan speaking through me, but don't be afraid to try something if you're really passionate about it. That's my first piece of advice. My second piece of advice is networking helps a lot. It doesn't necessarily have to be established people. Just talk with your friends. If you meet a group of people online who you can trust, talk with them about it. Find people who can help you grow as a creator, who can help promote your stuff, and who you can bounce ideas off of. Because that's what I found at the Mythiverse, is a group of people that I trust that give me feedback as a writer, that can give me business advice. And you're not always going to be able to find all the pieces in one place. You might have to look around. But a lot of words to say, the more you're able to find people that are as enthusiastic about your project as you are, the easier time you're going to have getting it off the ground. And the more help you can get, the easier it is. So don't be afraid to reach out to people and ask if they reach out to people to fill in the gaps in your knowledge. That's the concise way to say it. And then, yeah, it's so to put it concisely, the two biggest takeaways I have are you got to just do it. You can't just sit on the idea and be like, well, should I or shouldn't I? Just try it. And if people want it, they'll let you know. And then talk with people, find people who can help you. Those are the two best pieces of advice I can give.
Very good. Salem or Neville, do you guys have any things you've learned that you'd like to share with people who want to get into making comics?
Let Neville go first, because he's actually made a comic. I am just in the process of doing it.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm learning a lesson right now as we speak.
Crunch, 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 crunch.
Yes, as I crunch, 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 I'm learning a very, very valuable lesson and throwing together my nickels and dimes to finally pay this off. Hire a damn colorist. That's one thing I'm learning right now.
So basically, to know your limits.
Part of it, I guess a big part of it is don't feel obligated to do everything on your own, which I guess it's related to what James said.
Oh, you know what? I should find the tweet from Brian from the Rags team. He had a really good insight regarding that. You can keep talking while I scrounge for it.
There is a temptation, at least for me, there's a temptation to want to do everything on your own. Because I'm kind of that kind of personality.
You know, if you're looking for help, dude, I could always help you, ink and color or whatever. You know, we could probably talk about this after.
I'll consider it.
Not to shill or anything, but hello.
Oh, But yeah, that's one of the big things that I've learned. And I guess one of the more positive lessons I have learned is, persistence pays off. You just keep plugging away, and you'll get an opportunity, and from there it's a matter of putting in the time and hiring a damn colorist.
You don't have to do everything yourself. The perfectionists of the world.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Aurora, do you want to share anything about what you've been what you've learned about making comics from working with the Mythiverse?
Oh,
If anything,
was that for Salem or Aurora?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm so confused.
Okay,
what did I say? Did I say Aurora or did I say Salem?
I thought
you
you
said
said
Aurora.
Aurora. I'm so sorry.
I might have said Aurora because you just spoke. All right,
I
I'll take.
found
I'm
the
so
thread from
sorry.
Brian that I wanted to read off.
All right, how about let's see. Do you want to just read it or do you want to screen share it?
No.
I'll just read it off.
Okay. This is Brian, the creator of Rags.
Yeah,
Everybody.
Brian Ball.
Well,
So
it's
he
one
tweeted
half the
out.
creators. Yeah, there's Trent.
Yeah, one half of the creators. So he tweeted out on October 8th a thread about the success of Rags and what it took him compared to how people perceive it. And one of the tweets in that thread was, "Artist too expensive, budget. People hate Patreon, subscribe star. People hate Kickstarter, Indiegogo. People hate print on demand, use Amazon. There's zero reason why, outside of fear or having zero drive for your project to be unsuccessful, don't look at the big names and their 6 to 9 figure campaigns. Look at the smaller victories and build off that success, gather that momentum, create, express, and for fuck's sake, stop sabotaging yourself. You're better than that." And then one thing I wanted to, there was another message in the previous tweet that I didn't see. If there's no demand, make it. If you can't draw, outsource. The maximum effective range of an excuse is 0. So that's probably a bit harsher than I would say, than the words I would use, but I still think it holds very, very true.
Very cool. I always love Rags is a very quotable person in the indie comics universe. All right, so I think I cut off Salem. So why don't we do Salem and then Aurora and then Dylan? So Salem, did you want to share something about like what you've learned from the process of working with Mythiverse?
So far, what I have learned is that everybody has got to be able to be on the same page, because especially with a shared universe, but not just a universe, but just any joint project, you need to make sure that you need to make sure that everything is consistent with what other people have laid out before, but at the same time, you can't, you will get no ideas out if you just completely shape your idea around the rules of the universe that it's set in. So what I have found at least is that you got to come up with an idea and then mold that idea to fit the universe, not find something that fits into the whole first, because you got to be able to start off from your own platform in order to understand what you can create. It's I guess that's probably the biggest thing is communication I've learned. And also I have learned that, because I was so obsessed, I'm still working on the comic portion myself, but I have learned that there really isn't a quote unquote correct way to make a comic script. So all I did was I just took my what I've learned from writing screenplays and play scripts, and I just used that format to write my comic scripts, and it turns out that it works better than what I was trying before when I was trying to do it the quote unquote correct way. So those are the things. Those are the useful things that I've learned ever since working with the Mythiverse.
So maybe start with ideas before you worry about the details of world building, basically.
Well, the thing that was always holding me back was I was like, oh my gosh, is this going to contradict this? Is this going to contradict that? And it's like, why don't, what I found out, and it worked because it was able to get the idea out faster, was put out the idea. And then when people give feedback, like, well, wait a minute, the rule says this, or it contradicts this or that, then you can go, oh, got it. Then I can change it right away. Or I can find a way to make it fit. Just because it's like, if you, it kind of plays into what James is talking about. It's like, if you're just sitting there biting your nails, like, oh my gosh, will this work? Will that work? Then you're not getting anything done.
Very good. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's all I got.
Aurora, is there anything you want to share with people who want to get into writing for comics, or maybe writing in general that you've learned?
Well, if anything, I would say always have everything organized and prepared, because in the long run, that will help a lot if you have an outline and everything written. I found researching how to write a script for a comic directly helped me a lot. I can't really say much for art because Forrester is actually my artist for the project, and I have another artist working on another project, but I won't get into that one until way later. No spoilers. Always check your grammar and always check up on rules and whatnot, because it's easy to mess up on anything.
You don't want me reading your comic and then just screaming typo at the camera and shaking shaking my phone.
Huh? Me? No.
Oh, I mean me. Like, anytime I see a typo in a comic, I just I cringe, and then because I film my reviews on a phone, that means like the entire camera starts shaking.
Oh no, it's so bad. I personally love to read into the manguas, the mangos, and all that fun stuff. And as much as I know translators are doing their best, it is so horrible to see somebody slip in the where it should not be at, and it makes it so confusing. So yeah, no, grammar is definitely something that is very important.
And read it out loud, because if it sounds weird to your ear, it's probably wrong, especially if we're like spoken dialogue. Like, there are ways people speak out loud that don't that you'll miss if you're only doing it in just like purely written format.
Oh, absolutely. Also, characters should write themselves. So if you sit down and, kind of write out what your character should be like and their history and whatnot, they will eventually write the story for you. Holy cheese nuts. You can ask Neville about this one. Neville, how many characters do I have in the character Bible for Ashen Hearts?
Oh, God. I know about at least 4 of them.
At least 4 of them.
And they're the products of hours and hours of discussion and occasional headbutting.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. It's they pretty much wrote themselves though. It's kind of scary how that works.
Oh.
Something Bunny said actually reminded me of one other recommendation I have. So she said reading up on how to write a comic script helped her. So another piece of advice I'd give is figure out how you learn to get better at comics. That might be really weird to say. I think the best way I can explain it is by example. So for me, I came into comics not knowing anything about how to structure them. I knew what they were. I had read a couple, but didn't know anything. So for me, what was really helpful was picking a couple of comics / manga that I knew were like highly acclaimed and reading them to see why that is. So really easy example is Junji Ito and his use of the page turn as a device in and of itself for delivering horror. So he would set it up, last panel before a page turn, character's reaction to something, page turn, bam, there's a horrific creature or
it's a shark
whatever.
with legs.
Okay, Gyo. Um, but so that's like a really easy example. So look at examples of what you like or what you think is high quality and try and figure out for yourself why you enjoy it so much. Because if you can figure out why you enjoy something and why you would want to do something a certain way, it makes it easier to do it that way. Another example is I watch a lot of movies and I watch a lot of cartoons made by Genndy Tartakovsky. And I've picked up a lot on cinematography just from kind of analyzing those types of things and what makes them enjoyable or not enjoyable. And so through that analysis, I've been able to kind of develop in my brain a framework for writing comic scripts. Like, okay, I want this to happen, but I want it to happen in this way because I think it'll look cool and it'll deliver the information well. Because I'm very much a proponent of visual over text in a primarily visual medium.
Exactly. And it has its own language to it. Even just something as simple as a low angle versus a high angle communicates something very different about, like, for example, like if you're looking up at something, that implies it's really big and intimidating and imposing, right? And if you're looking down at something, it's a little bit, more vulnerable, more under threat. Like it's you kind of like have to understand your own psychology. Like we feel these things intuitively when we read stories, but kind of like what you're saying, when you know why it works,
yeah,
you're basically able to figure out what specifically the artist or writer is doing to make you feel that feeling when you're reading it. And it's hard because when you're reading something, you just kind of want to enjoy it and turn your brain off. But if your brain is on while you're reading, then you'll start to pick that up naturally.
Yeah. Also, movies. Watch movies for inspiration. Movies are just comic books with all its panels lined up and spun really, really fast. Seriously, that's like, if you think about it structurally, the basis of a film is the frame. It's just a bunch of frames put together and then moved really fast.
I have a point to contradict that. This is something I believe I think it was Alan Moore that said this. If you think of comic books in relation to film, then all they'll ever be is pictures that don't move. Like, yes, yeah. So
means more of the cinematography.
Well, yeah. Like, yeah. Think about comics just like as movies that like don't move. Like,
that's not what I'm trying to say, Dylan. What I'm trying to say is there's a lot of technical details in terms of framing and shot composition that transfer very well between cinema and comics. Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, that is true, but there's so much more you can do with comic books that you just can't.
I know.
The way I'd put it is you can learn visual language from filmmaking, but because comics is a distinct medium, like the Alan Moore point would basically be you want to consider what the comics medium is good at. So basically it would be learn what you can from other mediums and then apply it to your medium, which is going to have its own specific needs.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it right there, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to suggest.
Okay.
While I was learning, I did pick up a book on the matter. So I found out that the comic development does have its own lingo as far as talking about cinematography. So it's always good to be sure that when you're writing the script, to make sure to translate it in a way that if you're working with an artist, that they can understand what it is saying. That is a huge thing that I can say for that. Always never be afraid to converse with the people you are working with and understanding what needs to get done.
Mm-hmm.
That is a huge thing. Cooperation is key in this, especially if you're working in teams.
Very cool. I've been kind of like going one at a time. Dylan, do you want to share anything about like what you've learned about making comics, especially for people who are interested in getting into this themselves?
I think this is something more along the lines of something I learned. Something I learned during the process of doing this comic, but not particularly because of. Because I had the book written by Dan, Dropping Out. I had that given to me physically, and yeah, I had known just how much they cut off from the borders. Uh, this this is more of a technical kind of thing. Like I kind of learned like how big the pages are like on the book itself because they seem so small on on my tablet, but I see how big they are and I realize how much more stuff I can fit into a single panel. Uh, yeah, I just realized I could do more. Now hold on. You guys continue talking.
That's cool. We have a comment from Timothy Lim, creator of President Thump, POTUS Thump, and artist for Black Hops, artist for Common America. He recommends read Scott McCloud. His work is crucial to writing comics. I've read Scott McCloud. I've been very influenced by Scott McCloud. I don't know if I've told this to anybody, but one of these, I've got like a Scott McCloud rant buried inside me, and for me. One of these years, I'm going to have to like sit down and write like my very carefully thought out thoughts on Scott McCloud. But I definitely would recommend it to anyone interested in comics. Yes, especially his first book.
You have a preview for that rant there?
Basically,
I'm kind of interested now.
Okay, when I was in art school, one of my teachers pointed out that one of the reasons he's so controversial in the comics community is he was trying to basically nail down what comics are definitively, and it was sort of like he bit off way more than he could ever chew. And if you ever like talk to, I don't know, like the older generation of comics people, he's a pretty divisive figure. My own view is that I think he's a really, really useful guy for starting to think critically about comics. And I think that understanding comics is much, much better than his later work. I guess this will kind of like spoil the rant, but basically what I would dumb it down to is don't worship the guy, but definitely give him a chance.
That sounds about right. Because when it comes to any of these kinds of story structure things, it's a good guide and it tells you what works. But if you chain yourself to them, like with Sid Fields or with Save the Cat and that kind of thing, if you chain yourself to those things, it just becomes formulaic, and it's supposed to be an art, not a science.
Right. It almost might be more like a Rick and Morty thing, where I like Scott McCloud, but I don't like how or Seinfeld. Like once it becomes so universal, you start getting annoyed by it. I'm just a cynic.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, learn your history, learn the fundamentals, but there are benefits to thinking for yourself.
Might I just, on a more technical side of things, since you brought up Rick and Morty, I also do have to bring up, do check out the Harmon Circle. It's a tool that Dan Harmon came up with in regards to character writing and also writing as a whole. And in terms of like tools that modern writers are using a lot, I actually have found the Harmon Circle to be very, very useful.
Very interesting. Is there like a nice meme explanation of it or something?
Well, to be fair, it takes a large IQ to understand the Harmon Circle.
Yeah.
Here, 1 second. Let me...
Wait, I've got it. Number 1, they are in a zone of comfort. 2, but they want something. 3, they enter an unfamiliar situation. 4, adapt to it. 5, they get what they wanted. 6, they pay a heavy price. 7, they return to their familiar situation. 8, having changed.
Yep. Yeah, it's basically a very condensed description of the hero's journey.
Huh.
Yeah. Except the way that Harmon has it, it's like you can apply it to almost any character because you don't necessarily have to be the hero to go through that. Like you can apply the Harmon circle to like an antagonist. Like Harmon said, like literally he makes a Harmon circle for every character of like every episode of something that he creates. So it's like each time that like you're looking at an episode of Rick and Morty, Harmon has most likely done a Harmon circle for each character that makes an appearance in that episode.
Yeah, my way of putting it is, I've someone asked me like, how do you write? And I said, know what the character wants. Think about why have they not gotten this thing yet? And maybe it's like what Aurora was saying earlier, where the character writes themselves. If the character is alive and wants something, then you won't have to like sit down and think, what will they do in this situation? Basically, by understanding how they think, then it's sort of like they'll take on a life of their own and they'll start to act naturally or logically. If they want this thing more than anything else, then they will go after this thing. Basically, it's maybe like less. I don't know. You trying to do the brain power and just
Takes
more
a lot of the guesswork out of it.
Exactly.
And you need a high IQ to understand it.
I mean, you kind of do if you're trying to get into someone's head.
Hey,
I don't know about that.
Guys, I gotta take off for tonight. It was nice talking to everyone.
All
good night,
see you
Dylan.
later, Dylan.
Thank you for joining us.
All right, no problems. All right, it was nice meeting you, Marmaduke.
Thank you so much for joining us, Dylan. I look forward to reading your work in Hallowed Harvest.
All right, thank you. I gotta go.
Catch you later.
Later.
You should do it back at one of the catch-up tiers so you can get that dropping out. He worked his ass off on that.
Yes. Let me see here. So for people who are listening, I've linked to both, and you can get a digital tier. You can get a tier to get the print edition of it, and the All Hallows print. I think doesn't that that includes everything? That includes everything in the digital tier. So you'll actually get all of a digital collection catching you up on the Mythoverse if you get the print edition of Hallowed Harvest.
Now might be a good time to go over tiers, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yes, it
Let's
would.
do that.
Everyone's done giving their spiel.
Would one of you like to take point on that?
I'll take.
Oh, no, yeah, you did. No, dude, this is your baby. You handle this.
All right.
You throw your baby.
So, from cheapest to most expensive, or lowest to highest value, I guess, we have the $1 tier for the Mythoverse. It's for the people who might not have the funds to support the project at this point in time, but want to show their support either for this project or for the Mythoverse as a whole. It's $1, and you'll get a personalized email thanking you for the donation and for helping make the project possible. Then at the $5 tier, I should probably be streaming my screen.
I'm doing it for you, actually.
Understood. So we have the All Hallows digital. This will get you a digital print of. One moment. I'll respond to that in a moment. $5 All Hallows print. You get the digital copy of Hallowed Harvest. Over 60 pages, I believe, at this point, of Halloween goodness. Then there's the $10 tier, the digital catch-up pack. You will receive digital copies of everything the Mythoverse has published to date, as well as the digital for Hallowed Harvest. Then we've got the $25 tier, All Hallows print. So you get a print copy of Hallowed Harvest with the gorgeous cover by Nebel, as well as all of the digital rewards from the $10 tier. $45 is the print catch-up pack. I'd say this is probably the best value tier. You will get prints of Hallowed Harvest, Dropping Out, Adobe Kroger 1, Mythics 1, Changeling 1, over 100 pages of print for $45, as well as the digital rewards. So personally, that's my favorite tier. Like if I was coming into this not having created it, that's probably what I would back at, especially if you haven't read anything from the Mythiverse so far.
And for people who are interested in like if you haven't like encountered the Mythiverse at all, I have several interviews with the creators of the main Mythiverse stories. They've had a chance to kind of like talk about their vision for the universe and each of the main characters. So I would definitely recommend this for a new fan who hasn't checked out anything yet.
Yeah. So especially if you like the physicals, I'd say the $45 tier is excellent value. You're getting a lot of bang for your buck there. And then the top tier is the print catch-up pack plus posters. It's $65. You get everything from the $45 tier, and then you also get 3 different posters. You will get the Maeve Scream. So if you scroll to Ginger's story, the splash page that's there is getting turned into a poster. I love it. I can't wait until it's a wall scroll.
I'll show the full-size image of it. If I can find it. There it is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just so wonderful. I love it.
That's some good Edvard Munch.
Was that the guy who did the original Scream painting?
Yeah, that's
You've got it.
Monk.
Gotcha. I'm not good with names of artists.
I mean, I know him because German Expressionism and my life drawing teachers always compared my stuff to German Expressionist stuff.
Ah, gotcha.
I love. I would love having like how do you pronounce that guy's names debates with other art students.
It's Monk.
Edward Munch. Oh
But
my
that
Oh
is-
gosh, I just had a horrible thought. Like, what if there was like cereal, sugary cereal inspired by art history characters? Munchitize me, Edward.
You know what?
Edward Munch.
Now
Why-
that has to be
why
in
is there-
The commercials would be nightmare fuel.
Now with the scream-filled marshmallows.
Good.
Can you just,
why is
just
there-
imagine the commercials?
It
Imagine the
turns into
commercials.
bread.
Van
You know
Gogh's
what?
Oreos.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
yours.
So
Oh,
I don't mean to derail the conversation.
Sorry.
I want to re-rail it. While
Let's get back on the train real quick.
Marmaduke is
Yes.
lingering on that image, so that character art is actually another one of the posters. You'll be getting that gorgeous piece by Dylan. And then the third poster is actually going to be the cover of Hallowed Harvest without the trade dress and title. So the main difference is that, or the main thing is that there's going to be an extra pumpkin in here. These crowdfunding campaigns were launched before Bunny Story got reintroduced to the anthology. That's a long story. I'm not going to share it unless, or if she wants to share, I'll let Bunny talk about how that all shaked out. But
I just hope I don't get arrested because I never went and got tested.
okay.
I came down with the COVID, and that was a nightmare trying to catch up with everyone else. Oh, and so I wasn't sure if I was going to make it, so I backed out of the project near the end of it, even though the script had been completely done. But my artist convinced me to keep going, so I pressed forward.
And
So,
now she's in, and I am glad she's back because I want to read that short. I'm excited for it.
Basically, we're getting even more for
Yes.
our buck than is described in the Indiegogo and Kickstarter page.
Yeah. So originally it said like 50 some pages. It's over 60 at this point.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I'm glad you were able to get back into the project.
I'm glad I didn't die. The amount of times I
That's
said
also
if I
important.
died, I would want you all to stay away from my funeral.
But yeah, so that's the $65 tier. It's basically the $45 tier, but you get posters. Posters
We be-
are cool.
Especially
You all
the
right?
cover one.
Yes, I've been trying not to cough on camera. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
It's been over a
Right.
month and I'm still.
I heard that story and now I'm suddenly very worried.
No.
Ooh, boy.
That was all jokes. It was a very minor case.
Okay, good. All
Also,
right. So we've gotten through the tiers. We've kind of heard about all of the stories that are coming up. Would any of you like to share some additional thoughts?
I just did a doodle of Edvard Munchies.
Do you want? Can you like screen share it with me? Let's see.
Yes, do that. We need to see that.
Oh
I would
no.
like to make this a T-shirt. Can we? Do
You know
this?
what? I'm going to have to do a couple of hoops to get it in there.
Or just have all the greats on cereal boxes.
There's one.
Silly
There's one.
kids. Expressionism is for Germans.
There's one
No.
final point I would like to add in regards to Hallowed Harvest as a whole.
Yeah.
This thing getting funded on Kickstarter, that was everyone with the exception of Marmaduke here, because he hasn't been behind the scenes with us, but everyone involved is already hip to this. But for everyone who's backed us and supported us, this is a very big deal for the Mythoverse. Like that thing getting funded was a watershed moment for us, and this is probably going to go down as one of the most important moments in our publication history, because the first crowdfunder proved that we could do this thing at all. The second one, the Mythics #2 one, proved that we weren't just a flash in the pan. And now this one proves that what Matt, Dan, and I wanted for the Mythoverse can happen, that we can push new titles, we can push new creators, they can be attached to the Mythoverse name, and there's an audience for them. This thing can grow beyond us, which was what we wanted.
And I love that there's like a willingness to allow your creations to go out into the world a little bit. Like it's painful, like because you work hard on these things, you pour your soul and your imagination into these things, and you send it out into the world. You don't always know what's going to happen, but I really appreciate that you've kind of used this as an opportunity to allow creative people to express something within this world.
Yeah. It's what, like I said, it's what we wanted. We didn't want this thing to live and die with us.
Very, very cool.
Making me feel all small again, Brett.
Speaking of expressing ourselves, let's see here. Let me open up.
I suppose that if you wanted to, Omen actually sent me a teaser of the image, and I put it up on Twitter today.
All right. While you're getting that ready, I'm going to share my screen. Little doodle I did. I don't know if you can see it yet.
Oh, I see it. Edvard Munchies. Ah! They're all A's.
Yeah, it's alphabets, but they're all A's.
Wait, there's an H in there, though.
You don't tell them that.
It's not pronounced.
Yeah, you don't pronounce it. The H is the hell you live through eating them. What up, bump.
All right. Well, if I have any more art history related cereal mascot ideas, I will share them. I will share them with you.
Very good.
All right. Well, I have backed it. I've linked to it so people can go back it. Anything else you guys want to add?
It's really been an honor to work on this project with such talented people. I consider myself probably the least talented out of everyone working on this project, and I'm happy, even if my story doesn't turn out great, I'm happy just getting the spotlight on all these other people from the Mythoverse.
And I thank you for taking like the initiative of like organizing this and kind of like taking point on making it happen. That's really cool. I'm certainly happy to have been introduced to some new artists and writers. So it's a win-win all around. All right. If you guys send me your Twitters and contact info, I will update the description to link to all the creatives involved in this project. For now, people can go right away to Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Kickstarter has been funded. They are trying to reach 4,000 between both campaigns, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So support indie comics, and thank you. This has been a triumphant return to live streaming with indie comics creators on this channel. I want to do more of this. You guys are great. Thank you everyone who's joined us in the comment section, and support independent creators in the arts. If you want more independent art, no multimedia big two corporation stuff on this show. All right. I love you guys, and we will catch you later.
All right. It was good to see you, Marmaduke.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thanks
For joining us. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye.
What?